almost no concerns whatsoever.
5 stars.
Yeah, and now that we're online, we can see all of our families. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. We're going to start with introductions tonight. I feel like we haven't done this in at least a year. It was 2021 the last time we did one of these, but I'm Superintendent Diego Ochoa of the San Mateo-Foster City School District, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Robin Lovell. I'm a math TOSA.
Welcome, Robin.
Marilyn Ponce de Leon, school nurse.
Welcome, Marilyn.
Pam Bartfield, Director of Curriculum Instruction.
Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Nice to see you. We have three colleagues that are not on camera. That's our Director of Tech, Peter Cazanes. Hi, Peter. Susie Riley, our Coordinator of Student Services. Hi, Susie. And Diego Perez, our Comms Coordinator. Good to see you, Diego. Got 3 items on the agenda tonight, and our first is an item that I think, we started off the year with a huge focus on all of our COVID strategies and policies and mitigation. And, the first several months of school were they seem like a blur now. There was so much going on. The Safe Return to Schools plan, if you recall, that was a huge area of focus for us. And then we just started to see case numbers sort of flatten out for a while. We got into a program with concentric labs to do pooled testing. Susie, you're off camera, but you were there from the beginning. The first week was rough. We had about 3,000 kids signed up. And actually, one of the things a lot of folks don't know is you have to actually have a certain number of kids or else it's not pooled testing. It has to be a certain percentage of your students. So we really kept working, talking to families. Now we're up over 8,000 kids, so we're really excited about the combination of all the time and all the education we've given. The pool testing is in place. If you recall, when we started the school year, we had a few cases at Foster City Elementary School. Then we had some cases over in San Mateo. And there was a panic right at the beginning of the year. And I think it was justified because we just hadn't been in school with all the kids there at the same time. Remember, we were hybrid before and we were doing all kinds of different processes. But the state of California and the Department of Education have made a very focused goal of getting kids in school this year. And so we said, well, if that's the goal, let's be leaders in how we mitigate and how we intervene. So I want to start by giving a huge thank you to all of our teachers and employees at all of our schools. A special thank you to our school nurses, to our whole student services apparatus. They've just been amazing throughout this whole process. So where that puts us is we saw the vaccine come into play in late November for our kids in December. We held an event over at Bayside Academy and had a whole bunch of kids come in, over 700 kids come in and get vaccinated that day. And then we went away for break and the surge happened and the numbers popped all the way up. So we're back with some new data. We're back with some new strategies in place. We wanted to hold this event to be able to give parents an opportunity to ask us questions they have. I think for some, there's a reassurance that goes along with being able to ask their questions. And then others, I think they want to hear what we're up to. So I'm going to share a couple of updates here. I'm going to hold up this document. This was sent out to all of our families today, this week. It's titled COVID-19 New Weekly Reporting Document. We went for a very straightforward title. We didn't want people to have to guess what it was. This is not the old. Is it new?
Is it new?
One of the big questions. Yes, it is new. The visuals on it are very different. What we wanted to do was we wanted it to get down to the school level, and each school has 3 columns where we report data. The first column is how many cases were there this week? So our school principals and office staff will tell you we start getting phone calls. We keep getting phone calls, then we get emails. And those phone calls and emails will come in 7 days a week. And these staff members are amazing. They check them 7 days a week. And each school reports the information that they tell us. We contact trace and we ask a lot of questions. So you'll have one family that says, my kids haven't been back to school, and we tested my child and he's positive. So then we'll have another family that says, I sent my child to school on Monday and we tested on Monday night and they're positive. So in case A, the child was never actually on our campus. So there's no way that that child would have been around his or her classmates because they didn't come to school for that week. And then in the other case, the child was in school that day. And so we really wanted this chart to show that data. So you'll have for each school a total number of cases. And then the second column is the COVID positive on campus this week. Even if it was just for one day, they were on campus. And then the last column is how many classrooms. So if you're at a school like Audubon's got 558 students, and they had 14 classrooms with the case last week. And so a school that size, that's going to be pretty close to 30 teachers. So it gives you an idea of how many different classes had a case. And again, we are in the middle of a surge. So if we had reported this data last semester, what it would have looked like is 2 cases, 1 on campus, 1 classroom. You know, the numbers were that different 5 months ago. So they've come up quite a bit. A reminder to our families and our community members watching, you're welcome to type any questions into the chat. Once we're done talking through the different items that we're going to discuss tonight, we will take questions from our families and from our partners out there. So that's number 1, our new weekly reporting document. If you go to the district's website and click Safe Return to Schools, it's a little teal tab at the top of the screen. It'll take you right to this document, a link right to the document. The second is, if we want our kids to actually get tested, we want our older brother to get tested, if we want our parents to get tested or our grandparents to get tested, where can we actually get tested? And we have, it's actually right in front of you, Marilyn, if you want to hold it up. This is the other one, the green form, yeah. You can just turn it to the screen there. Diego Perez has created this COVID-19 testing calendar. Shows you their days of the week. It shows you a QR code. When you go online, you can actually just click the QR code and you can register yourself to get tested on any one of those sites. It's in English and Spanish. We partner with Virus Geeks to get that testing implemented at 5 different schools, a different day of the week, every day of the week. So our approach is to really just get those resources out there, get our families connected to testing. Again, we're super excited to have 8,000 doing weekly pooled testing. So that's already taken a huge population within our district and making sure they're in some protocol for testing. And then we feel like the Virus Geeks is a second process for that. Then, of course, we just want to really encourage families out there, vaccinate. It's safe, it works. Get out there and get your kids vaccinated. We just finished holding an event last week at College Park Elementary School, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We had huge response to it. Nearly 1,000 vaccinated in those 3 days. We were aiming at 5 to 11-year-olds, so that's really positive. But there are other vaccination events happening right now, and we want to encourage families to take advantage of those. The last piece is just what's actually changed in terms of the district's process to work with families through cases, because we've gone from 20 cases a week to 125 cases a week, and many more phone calls than that. Marilyn, you work with a team of people here at the district office.
Yes. When
there's a positive case, talk to the families for just a second. What questions do you ask? What protocols do you go through? What kind of support or information can you give those families? And really your whole team, what kind of information do you route to them when they call?
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, our team makes calls almost daily, reaching out to families. Everyone's safety is our main concern. So, first we want to see how everyone is doing in the household, and if they have, resources such as testing, and or if, we can answer questions for them as far as where to go for future vaccination. We'll ask questions such as if they tested, was it positive or negative? What kinds of symptoms is the family experiencing? We might, if we're, for instance, we're calling regarding a student in middle school, we might inquire if there are other elementary school age children in the home. And from there, whether it's the household members are positive or negative or having symptoms or vaccinated, then we go from there as far as informing families about how many days they'll need to quarantine in the home, or maybe they won't need to quarantine. They would be able to just have another test, and if it's negative, maybe they can go right back to work or to school. That's pretty broad.
Yeah.
Are there any specifics?
Well, I just think, what families want to know is, they're going to find out at some point if one of their kids has COVID. And I think when that happens in your household, you have sometimes simple questions, like he has a sibling who's not COVID positive. What happens to him?
Mhm.
Sure.
So
Right.
we start to go through those questions with them.
Right. Well, sure. For instance, the guidelines have recently changed. So say one of our students has tested positive today, and so we might have made the call this afternoon to see how they're doing and to confirm the positive test. And the guidelines will follow to inform families if the student who tested positive will need to quarantine at home, and preferably away from other family members who are not positive. Have their, if at all possible, have their meals in their room and use their own bathroom or away from other family members in the bathroom. And then quarantining for 5 days. Hopefully on the 5th day, they can get another test. A rapid antigen test is recommended on the 5th day. I know that a lot of families are struggling to find those rapid tests right now. And so a PCR test is acceptable. The rapid test is recommended. And if it's negative, then the student can, and if they're not having any symptoms, then they can go back to school the next day. Now, take another example. Say there are other school-age children in the household. Just to take an example, let's say they are vaccinated. They're not showing any symptoms. They can continue to attend school if they are vaccinated. They have tested negative and are not having any symptoms. They can continue to attend school. It's recommended that if they do have a positive case, another family member in the household, that they would get tested after 5 days.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest changes is that
Yes.
when we started out with this pandemic, if you were in a household where, let's say you're a 3rd grader and your mom has COVID, then you basically didn't come to school. You were told stay home, quarantine at home. And they've really changed that guidance and said, we're going to take it a few extra steps. We want you to self-report any symptoms. If you're symptomatic, go get tested and stay home. They said, if you're vaccinated and you don't have symptoms, get tested and come to school because you're not likely to transmit or even have COVID. And that's hard for some families because what they want is that risk eliminated. They want to say, like, if you have any proximity to a case, you need to stay home. But I think what the big change that the state of California made this year was just really elevating the importance of having kids in school.
Yes.
And saying, when a child misses 10, 14, 15 days of school because their sibling has COVID. That's not good for the child.
No.
And I think that's an important distinction because it's the one that from my emails that I receive from families, it's one of the hot button issues that's out there right now.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, the vaccination isn't 100%, but I certainly am positively seeing cases that will have one positive family member, the whole household is vaccinated, and the other members do not get it. They are responsible, though, and continue to test and monitor symptoms.
Yeah. You know, I noticed you're wearing a mask that says KN95. Talk to the families a little bit about that mask.
Well, the N95 mask in general is the most effective. And just a little explanation about masks. There are different levels of protection in masks. When the pandemic first started, you know, the cloth masks were recommended and found to be effective, especially because people could wash them. And, you know, there can be more than one use. But the N95, the way it's made, it has the highest level of protection to keep germs and the viruses from entering, you know, to the inside of the mask. So as far as all of the masks go, this is the one that people can wear for the longest amount of time and in an environment where they could be exposed. So if I made sense, therefore, you know, it's the safest protection we have.
You know, a couple of months ago, we didn't think about it, but we wore sort of the blue surgical with the white on the other side.
Yes.
I like those from a comfort
like those
standpoint. They kind of fit for me. Sometimes if I would go to like Target or to a grocery store, I'll put on a second one. Somehow that
Yes.
it kind of, I would sort of overlap them a little bit so I could just get it a little bit higher on my nose, a little bit lower on my neck area. But when I started to read more about the N95 masks, and by the way, our district has purchased over 20,000 of these masks.
Yes, that's wonderful.
And we've sent out to date 10,000 of those in child-sized masks for our littlest guys, and then adult-sized masks for our older students and for our adults. And again, more on the way. But it really just kind of opened my eyes to the importance of having the best possible mask that I could get that wasn't going to stress the system, that wasn't going to take away a mask from a nurse or from a doctor.
Right.
So it really came down to the N95 models. When I put it on the first time, it took a little bit getting used to because there were some that actually went over my head, and that one just didn't work for me.
Covered your whole head.
But I found it.
Well,
I found this.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I found this one here. You're wearing a version of it. You're wearing a version of it. It has yours is on the outside. You have a what do they call it? A tension rod that you can sort of shape over the bridge of your nose. I kind of like that, but when I wear it, I really feel like I'm doing my breathing and it's staying here, as opposed to the older masks that I used tended to feel like they would sort of, you know, there was more escaping, there was more getting out, and there was more getting in. And with this, you do feel that extra protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I noticed too, as I talk, or people might, you can even eat, you know, with the mask on, and it doesn't slip down under the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course the ones that most are getting away from are the cloth masks and things of that nature. Now, Marilyn, is this your first time on a YouTube live stream?
It is.
Okay, well, you're like a pro.
I know.
Did you go to YouTube live stream college or some
Well, I must get it from my
video.
son. He's a vice principal and he loves to make YouTube videos.
Oh, he's an administrator. That's amazing. That's so cool.
No, that is awesome.
Some of the best people I know are
I
school
know.
administrators. So what happens is as we talk, do you see the screen in front of you that with all the, don't read it. It's kind of like, you know, where they say like, it's going to throw you off. But because we have two people in the room, Diego Perez, our comms specialist, and Susie Riley, our coordinator, they're taking the notes for us, and he writes them on these papers, and then I read them, and we try to answer them together. So the first is, why is data updated weekly and not daily if a school can do it? I think, Diego, you're off camera, but I think it's just the amount of data that we're talking about. I don't want to give out data that becomes irrelevant the next morning, because schools are getting these phone calls at different times of the day, and principals are looking at this information, and secretaries are looking at this information at different times of the day. I want to remind families we have 21 schools, so that's 21 different inputs of data. As far as a manpower process goes, it did take 18 hours of manpower to produce the report that we produced. And the minute we put it out, we got emails saying, change this, update this, update. So even with that level of work, it's a lot of data. It's a lot of inputting. So that's the biggest thing, is just the amount of schools that are out there, and the importance of having a consistent presentation of the data for us. That's the reason we go for the once a week. Our next question is, what level of flexibility is the district providing for excused absences, considering everyone's risk is different at home and would, ostensibly, I think the question is asking, if I have certain risk factors that make me keep my child home, they're not yet COVID positive, but there are other risk factors. Is it an excused absence, is the question. In the past, the district had a policy of assigning kids and families to something they called the Student Attendance Review Board, or SARB, if they had excessive absences. That's standard throughout the state of California. Every district does it. We're not using any COVID absences for those purposes. So to the families that are listening, we are using that flexibility because we're not going to punish children for staying home for reasons having to do with a legitimate concern, in terms of mitigating risk of getting COVID. And that's different. That's not a typical act that we take on an annual basis. That led to the next question, which is, would the district offer short-term independent study? What we're really doing is talking to families about the state's direction of going towards keeping kids on campus. We have kids that are in long-term independent study. That is you supervise it for the elementaries. It's a mountain of work. It's a lot of coordinating and work. So what we have right now is we're taking most families through a process with their teachers of getting work and turning in work, and I think we want to keep it there. We don't want to add another process to it. I can share some attendance data with you all. When we returned to school on January 5th and January 6th and 7th, that first week was only 3 days. Our attendance percentage district-wide is about 76.5%, 77%. So we did the analysis. Some kids had COVID. Some kids were still out from break. Some kids were home because somebody in their house had COVID and they couldn't get a test. Remember, that was the week where it was really hard to get tests. And then other kids were home because their parents were afraid to send them to school. So it was a little bit of everything. Last week, we saw those numbers rebound on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday, but on Friday, we had a really low attendance day. But it was a 3-day weekend. So we went back and did the research. Every year that we've had that Monday off, kids miss school the Friday before. So a 3-day weekend became a 4-day weekend for a lot of families. And then we also still had kids out for COVID, and we still had kids out for precautionary reasons. We've seen that rebound in a pretty big way today. We got up in the 86, 87% attendance for the district. In a normal year, it would be about 94%. So we've still got that percentage that are home for COVID or COVID mitigation. But we're seeing a big rebound in terms of attendance in the district. It really varies per school. So Brewer Island Elementary School, for example, is close to 93% attendance. Kind of a typical year for them. Other schools are still in the high 70s, low 80s. So it's really just a range depending on the school and the district. Here's a question for you. If a student is exposed in school but is vaccinated, why are they not entering modified quarantine or getting tested?
Well, we check for symptoms, and if there's been, we do have the pool testing, right? It's going on weekly. And back to this.
Yeah.
And well, for individual testing.
Yeah.
So, but again, it would be recommended to have a test regardless after 5 days. So if you're vaccinated, we'll just monitor for symptoms and recommend to have a test in 5 days.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's also a stress on how many tests are out there. So if you didn't go on the website yesterday, the federal government opened that portal to be able to request.
yes.
Yeah, we did so in my household.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people who did. So we want to encourage families to do that. But there's also, you can go get a test today and not get the results for 5 days right now, 6 days, because there is a tripling and quadrupling effect of people wanting to get tested. So when that happens, it slows the system down. It delays the system. So I think that's what's hardest for parents to wrap their minds around is 6 months ago, the exposure sent you home until you had that proof of test and that exposure. Well, now we're saying if you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, we want you to go get tested, but you need to be in school. And that's the main difference. And I think our system-wide approach is wear those masks, hand sanitize,
Yes.
don't come to school if you feel sick, make smart choices about your activities outside school. And those things are proven to be effective. Those things are proven to be very effective. Yeah. Diego, this question looks like it's for you. It's why delete previous data? Diego, why did you do that? A lot of things with communications, we do things because it looks better. We feel like, well, it's a new year, put up new data. We didn't, yeah. So I think Diego actually just updated right now during this meeting. That doesn't happen very often, Diego, that the question's for you, but in this case, it was for you. So, yeah, I think we want something on a communications platform to always look good. We want it to be consumed and understood and relevant. So I think probably for us, it was just feeling like maybe last year was last year.
Yeah, this year now.
We're on to this year. You know? But we can definitely put links back up there to make it accessible for the public. Yeah, I can see we're getting lots of updates and different. This looks like articles, different pieces of information out there. We're gonna stay on for another half hour, Marilyn. I'm gonna thank you so much for being here. We're about to kick off a conversation on math, and then in just a few minutes, a conversation on Footsteps to Brilliance, our literacy program.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
You.
All right. You all stay safe.
All right, you too.
Enjoy the kitty.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. That's a great segue to talking about another animal.
Into math and
Look at this.
So cute.
This is a cute penguin. This is not a matter of opinion. This is completely objective. This is a cute penguin. His name is Gigi. Gigi is part of a program that we got started in the district with a year ago. And this year are implementing the program district-wide. Robin, you're here with us tonight. We're going to talk about math. I'd like for you just to talk to families that are out there right now about your role in the district with math and your experience with math in the district, and then we'll get into the conversation about ST Math.
Sure. So I am a site-based math TOSA. I work at San Mateo Park Elementary and Fiesta Gardens. My role is really supporting teachers in supporting students to learn math. Our big interest is to help students see that math makes sense. Oftentimes students get caught up thinking that math is only about getting the answer. And we like to say that the answer is important, but it's not all the math. And ST Math is one of those programs that really helps students make sense of the mathematics. And it kind of takes it out of the context of a word problem or a textbook or a worksheet. And it presents puzzles for students that they get to look at, make sense of, kind of grapple with what is the program even asking them to do. And it's all based on really cool brain science that helps the kids solidify a really solid understanding of math conceptually.
Mhm.
So back to your question, my role, I'm going into ST Math, but part of my role is to help students participate in ways that they make sense of things, they come up with strategies, and they're able to really become thinkers and problem solvers with mathematics. Part of that is bringing down the anxiety around doing math, and part of it is supporting students with activities and tasks that help them engage in that way.
And I would say things that they could talk about with each other,
Definitely.
right? Things that are exciting, not like necessarily just a worksheet.
Yeah.
Students come to school with so much knowledge, and they have so much understanding that if they can connect that with this thing called math in school,
Mhm.
it's really helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's really empowering when kids recognize that the way they see things in terms of mathematics does make sense, and that it's validated in the context of a classroom.
Mhm.
And they can have conversations with other students,
Mhm.
they can have conversations with teachers,
Mhm.
and that the things that they bring with them are validated,
Yeah.
then they begin to thrive.
Robin, did you know that we bought enough Chromebooks this year for every student in the district?
It's amazing.
It's good, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Last year we didn't have
We
that.
didn't.
I remember. Yeah.
We had some kids out there with these dinosaur computers that
Yeah.
still only had 6 letters on them. Actually, Susie Riley had one of those. And one of the reasons that we did that was because I'm going to add a new level to this conversation, which is math at home.
Mhm.
Okay. At the school level, I taught 6th grade math 2 weeks ago at Abbott Middle School. I watched our students go through a lesson and saw them talking to each other and engage with them and in really digging into their math thinking. It was awesome experience. It was a Zern math
Mhm.
activity where for middle school it's Math Nation, but for me kind of same difference. Very group focused, very thought process oriented, very multiple entries to the math problems. And what we're going to talk about tonight is what it means to create the expectation
Mhm.
that kids do math at home,
Mhm.
not at school. That's what tonight's about.
Mhm.
Both of the presentations we're making tonight are about creating a new expectation
Mhm.
that we as a district give families the tools that they need so kids can continue their learning in the home.
Mhm.
Now we want you to talk about ST Math. Turn it over to you. Talk to these folks about ST Math. You got some beautiful visuals here in front of you.
Gigi the penguin.
Gigi.
So yeah, ST Math is one of many, many tools. Of course, there are all kinds of things that you find around the house or in your world all around you that are, great tools for talking about mathematics. ST Math is a computer-based program. It's a web-based program that kids now, all of the students in our district have access to it. They access it through Clever,
Mhm.
And it's
So when
something.
they open the computer, there's a little button that they can just click on it to open ST Math.
Yeah, it's called a single sign-on. They I think the button takes them to Clever.
Yes.
And then they look for the penguin on their Clever menu.
Mhm.
And kids are really good with this. I've worked with, many kindergarten and first grade students who know very well what to do to get to ST Math. And the program leads the students. It's all visually based.
Mhm.
One of the most compelling things about ST Math as a tool to use at home is it is not based on formal language.
Mhm.
It's almost 100% visual. So students get on and they see a context or they see a situation on the screen,
Mhm.
and their goal is to get the penguin. The penguin walks across the screen, and that's their goal, is to do something that gets the penguin to walk across the screen. So the process, it's all based on brain research, and the ST stands for spatial temporal. So the students look at the situation and they go through, this is the learning cycle. I don't know if you can see that,
Mhm.
but they go through this process, which is ST Math calls it the notice, predict, analyze, connect cycle. So noticing being they look at the screen and what do they notice? And they're making sense of what they see on the screen. Then they predict, what do they think will happen if? And oftentimes it's not intuitive at all. They have to kind of click around and make sense of what they're doing. So they predict what will happen, then they try something. They get immediate feedback from the program and they get to analyze, oh, I see what happened.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite stories to tell is using ST Math with a third grader who had arrived probably a week before this particular story. And I was showing her how to use ST Math, and she figured out that she can click anything, make a mistake, watch the screen, get the feedback, and then she'll go, I get it now.
Mhm.
And so that was her trick. She would click, make a mistake, watch the feedback, analyze it, connect it to what she had already done, and then figure out what she needed to do. Just the kind of strategy when kids are working, in this context independently. That's what we want them doing, making sense of it, analyzing the feedback they get, and trying something different. I think one thing I would like to say to families or to anyone who's listening is ST Math is not always intuitive. It definitely requires getting in and poking around and trying things and analyzing that feedback. And the best way we can help students with it is just by asking them questions like, what do you notice?
Mhm.
What do you think it wants you to do? What do you think would happen if? And those kinds of questions really push the student to be the thinker and the problem solver, as opposed to, as caring adults, often it's tempting to help the kids with the math. Like, I know how to make equivalent fractions. Let me show you my way. And that actually removes the student from the spatial temporal.
They become a spectator.
They become a spectator, and it may not make sense. And this particular program really is based on that brain science that says, as they get the feedback, the little synapses are firing, and it helps them.
Mhm.
It really helps them. So we
Because
don't want.
mistakes make your brain grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we want the context, what they're looking at, we want it to make sense with the students so that it brings the anxiety down and it lets them do something based on their conceptual understanding,
Mhm.
which is kind of the foundation of where we want them to go.
It's so great to hear a
Mhm.
teacher perspective on it.
Mhm.
So then you come over to
Mhm.
an administrator. Pam, you
Mhm.
were the principal at George Hall.
Mhm.
You've been in curriculum and instruction.
Mhm.
Talk from your perspective about ST Math. Why is it important? What's it all about for you?
For me, being a previous principal and now being at the district level, for me, it's about how do we give students continuous opportunity, not just in the school day, but outside the school day, to engage in this sort of learning, right? We know kids like screens, we know they're on screens, but what's happening on those screens? The thing with ST Math, and because we've had it for a year and we've tried it out at a few of our school sites, we actually were using it at middle school for a while. I think when people see the penguin, they think, oh, that must be just for like kindergarten. It's actually,
It goes all the
yeah,
way
it goes
through
all
eighth
the way
grade.
through 8th grade.
Yeah.
It gives our students, especially our students that might not feel confident in mathematics, ways to think differently about math. I know myself, when I was younger, I used to, use all the different tools, but worry that that was the wrong thing to do. And I wish I had a program like this when I was a kid. But it gives our kids opportunities to try out different things, think about mathematics, not be afraid to make mistakes. The program provides analytics for us. So as a site principal, as a curriculum director, allows us to see how are our students doing in mathematics. What are the, what are the different standards or components or parts of the mathematics that they're getting? What are they not getting? I think we call in mathematics, we talk about low floor, high ceiling. Like this is like the perfect example of a low floor, high ceiling where any student can access. Every single student in our district can access this program, and then it takes them to the challenges that they're ready to meet and pushes their thinking. So I think it's a mix of what it does for the individual student, and as a program, it allows us to see across a classroom, across a grade level, across a school site, how are students doing?
As an administrator, for me, I always think about what's going to actually happen during the 6 hours that school's in session.
Mhm.
So I go, okay, let's think about a kindergarten classroom. Let's use an example. You've got a kindergarten classroom at Meadow Heights Elementary School. That's in San Mateo. And we've got 22 kids in that kindergarten classroom. And all 22 come to school on a pretty decent basis, 90% attendance or more. And they all get the same math lesson every day, right? They're with the teacher, they're all getting the same math instruction. But of those 22, 15 of them go home and they do math work at home. Their parents put them online to a program, or their parents take them to a tutoring program, and 7 don't. And 7 are missing that extra time. This program helps to solve that problem. Because this program is free to the families. There's no fee that goes along with this. The 7 families who normally wouldn't be in that program, what would happen is those students, those minutes, that time, that's being made accessible to the families because we are giving them the computer they need to use the program. And then when there's a family that doesn't have Wi-Fi access at home, we as a district own Wi-Fi hotspots. We can send them out next week. If 100 families called us next week and said, we don't have Wi-Fi access for our family, we have enough Wi-Fi hotspots right now to send them out to every single family within days. Yeah, we're ready for it. Like it's right there. So I think that's an important thing to consider. The other part of it is what is the amount of time that leads to the growth? If a kid is 5 or 6 years old, it's 1 hour a week. That's the recommendation. When they hit 7, 8, 9, 10, and beyond, it's 90 minutes a week, an hour and a half a week. And what the research shows is that if they commit that time, they're going to make substantial progress academically.
You want to hear what some of the data says?
Hit me with it.
Some really, really compelling data out of Long Beach and then out from WestEd, which is a national research group. And what they've shown consistently for the 6 or 7 years that I've been using ST Math is that if kids get through, oh gosh, let me get my numbers right. Kids who get through 75%, let me go with the numbers. Kids who spend between 60 and 90 minutes per week on ST Math, 75%, the percentages correlate to their success on the SBAC. So they've been able to show if the kids get through 75% of the ST Math curriculum, 75% of those kids score proficient or advanced on SBAC. If they get through 50 to 74%, 74.9% of the curriculum, 50 to 74% of that population scores proficient or advanced on ST Math. And I've seen it disaggregated by language learners, by a bunch of different groups, and it seems pretty consistent that the more you do ST Math, the higher your score on SBAC.
It's also proven to be accessible to children with special needs. It's also proven to be accessible for children who struggle to read,
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
children with dyslexia, English learner
Mhm.
students,
Mhm.
newcomers. As
Yeah.
you pointed out, it's not based on language. A child's going to get into the program and go through the notice, predict, analyze, and connect process. And it's like a muscle. They start to build it up and build it up. And the great thing about it is we're not asking families to put their kids on the program for an hour a day. It's nothing like that. It's if you're in kindergarten or first grade, it's an hour a week.
Mhm.
The whole week, 1 hour. If you're in second grade and above, it's 90 minutes for the whole
Mhm.
week.
Mhm.
But what's important to note is if you do it every single week, it is proven to predict success.
Mhm.
That is the point. It's not the like put the kids online all day long. No, it's use this program along the recommended timelines so that it leads to essentially a prediction of the kind of progress we want kids to make.
And kids get excited about it.
Yeah, they like it.
They do. They do.
I've seen them use it. I've been at Park watching kids use it. So that's been really great to see.
I see middle schoolers use it and like it.
Yeah.
And one,
Yeah.
one little thing to just mention, because I've heard from a number of parents about this, you can adjust it. The program itself keeps track of what the kids have done. So if a kid is doing first grade curriculum and is not challenged by it, the teacher can adjust that and put them in the challenge blocks.
Yeah.
Or they can, I don't necessarily it's not my favorite practice, but you can put a kid in a higher grade level as well.
Yeah.
So you could put a first grader in second or third grade math. When they hit second or third grade, they won't be stuck repeating the same puzzles.
Yeah. Now we're
Because
going to get 600 emails saying, move my child.
Yeah.
He's in third grade,
It's not
but I want him in
recommended.
7th grade.
Uh-huh.
ST Math.
What we do recommend is adjusting them within the grade level
Yeah.
because they're challenge blocks.
Yeah,
within
and
the grade level.
and that's we
Low
have
floor, high
parents who
ceiling.
are very, very concerned with that.
Yeah.
Very concerned with saying, how can I give my child the academic challenge that my child wants and deserves? And that's the part of this program that is really responsive to that as well. Is it meets kids where they are, but then we can actually tweak and modify a little bit. We have a couple questions that came up in the chat here, Diego. I don't know if you have them put down together as notes. If you do, you can pass them on over. I'm trying not to break my rule of reading the chat while
I
I'm
know,
speaking
don't break the
online.
rule.
But there's a concern about the number of weekly minutes. We did talk about that a little bit. 5 and 6 year olds, an hour a week total.
One thing that has come up, and it's connected to this question, is some kids have wanted to be self-paced on Zern. And I think there was some confusion around that a year ago when we first began using Zern. Zern is not a self-paced program. It's designed for students to do digitally the same lesson that their teacher teaches in a day. Some kids would continue because they wanted to do more math. And ST Math actually offers an alternative to that.
Yeah.
We really want kids to stop after one lesson a day with Zern.
Yeah.
And ideally, that one lesson would not take more than 30 minutes.
Well, because we're guiding them through the whole series of units.
Yeah.
Zern. Whereas ST Math is about the sort of the inquisitiveness, the curiosity, a child sees it as game playing, game
Yes.
playing, but really it's building that conceptual math muscle is what we see happening. There's a question about the study from Long Beach. So Robin, I'll work with you later this week to pull that information out and be able to share that in our next, Diego, if you can connect that to our next communications on ST Math and send that out. The question is, what kind of study was it? And we can pull that together.
Yeah.
And then you did address the Zern question. And math is exciting, but it's only part of tonight's
Part of it.
festivities.
That's right.
Because Miss Bartfield over here,
Mhm.
Mrs. Bartfield over here has been chomping at the bit to talk Footsteps of Brilliance.
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity to get excited about math online.
Absolutely.
I don't have a Footsteps of Brilliance mug.
You don't have a fancy mug
No.
that says,
But that's ST Math
I love
mug.
math. But you do have a handout.
I do.
We have a new program in the district that we're inaugurating in the month of February. Our
month of February month.
launch
Uh-huh. Valentine's Day
Mhm.
hearts,
Mhm.
love for literacy.
It's a real love for literacy.
Mhm.
You're the champion for the program.
Mhm.
You got families that are watching. We'll be sending this out to all of our families via an email link. Talk about Footsteps of Brilliance. Why are we doing it? What does it mean for families?
I think similar to the conversation about mathematics, where we know there's so much time outside the school day. There's time out after school, there's time on the weekends, there's time over the summer, there's time over breaks, where for some families, they may, be out purchasing books, going to libraries, doing the, going to additional tutoring, doing multiple things. We want to make sure that every single one of our students has access to high quality literacy. And so what's really exciting about Footsteps to Brilliance that now kind of sets a little bit apart from ST Math is it's really focused on preschool through third grade, although we're having conversations about students in upper grades that might need this as well with the group. But Footsteps to Brilliance is a early reading and an early foundational skills program through games and rhymes and thousands of books. But the really cool thing about it is you don't need internet to access all of it. You do need internet, which we'll work with our families and schools around this. You need internet to download, but it could be used on any single device. We're putting it on all of our Chromebooks, and students will have immediate access.
So if I live in North Central San Mateo,
Mhm.
I can walk to College Park Elementary,
Yep.
log into the school's guest Wi-Fi,
Yep.
and download Footsteps of Brilliance.
Yep.
My
You can do that
child,
at Starbucks.
yeah, I can do it at Starbucks. My child, when they're at school, will have the device already loaded
Mhm.
with Footsteps of Brilliance.
Yeah.
But let's say we're out of town. I have my phone. My child doesn't need to use my minutes or my data
Mhm.
to use the program. You keep it in an offline mode.
I already have it on my phone.
Does it get lost?
No,
When you
still here.
log in?
It's really cute. This we have a mouse.
Yeah.
I don't know if we saw
We
it.
got a penguin, we
and a
got a mouse.
penguin.
What happened to lions and tigers and bears?
Oh my, those are gone.
They're not,
Next meeting. we'll
they're
figure
down
out
on the
dogs.
list now.
Can I tell you another great feature about
Yeah.
it? It's really easy to navigate. It's really intuitive. And for our families that are Spanish speaking and English speaking, or just Spanish speaking or just English speaking, there is a button, a really easy to use button right on the website, on the app, where you can toggle between Spanish and English. And I'm talking about not like, oh, when I log in, I have to decide in the middle of a book, or in the middle of a song, or in the middle of a game, any page, you can toggle back and forth. Probably the easiest interface I've ever seen with doing that.
We have about 1,000 kids in every grade level. First grade, about 1,000 kids. Second grade, about 1,000 kids. So I want you to think about how many 4-year-olds live in our community. Let's call it another 1,000. And how many 3-year-olds live in our community? That's another 1,000. And how many 2-year-olds live in our community? This program coordinates with those kids as well.
Yeah. For anybody that lives in San Mateo, the city of San Mateo, and the city of Foster City, will be able to have access, whatever their age is. They could be 2 months
0
old,
years old, 2 months old.
learning letter sounds.
Giving the parent a resource where the program actually starts with songs and rhymes. So if you're a Spanish speaking parent and you want your child to hear lullabies in English and you want to know what those lullabies are saying, you play the lullaby in Spanish so you hear it, and then with one button you translate it into English and you replay it in English. So your child has a resource that you understand what's going on. It's not like turning on a television and it's saying something in English and you don't know what it's saying. You're the person driving it. You take a book, you can read to your 1-year-old child, because that's, ultimately that's what a lot of families do to give their kids a head start, is they start reading to their kids every night and every weekend. And that's what we want parents to do.
Mhm.
I want my 3-year-olds to do it. I want my 4-year-olds, my kinders and above, absolutely. But it's really about changing that culture in our community to have families who currently don't have access for whatever reason, give them access. Put the app on their phone and start using it when the kid's 3 months old.
And I like, we have on our flyer, it's we call it lap time, not app time.
It's
So, and I know, we've come out of a time where there's lots of screen, but I think about what's happening on that screen.
Yeah.
How with this program, you're interacting with your child through the games, through the songs, through the books.
Yeah. Well, and it's not excessive. We're not asking kids to be on Footsteps of Brilliance an hour a day either.
No.
It's depending on the age level, it's again another, let's get them online for another 90 minutes a week. And let's build a reading habit, because there's nothing more exciting than seeing a 6-year-old come to you and say, I can read this.
Mhm.
There's also nothing more heartbreaking than seeing a 10-year-old come to you and say, I don't
can't
know
read.
how to read.
Mhm.
There's an emotion that's tied to reading that's different than, growing up, I wasn't very handy. I didn't know how to fix a lot of things when I was growing up. It didn't necessarily cause the emotional trauma of what it means to not be able to read.
Mhm.
Reading is tied to so many social activities,
Mhm.
community activities, and we really want to change that. And right now, our data shows us that a really high percentage of our kids are not learning to read.
Mhm.
Primarily kids who come from English learner backgrounds and kids who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And the thing about it is we can change that.
We can.
And we're going to. And this is just one strategy
Mhm.
among many. That for me, it's about creating that new platform where we say, we want kids to use these proven scientific programs at home because we're going to monitor who's using it. So that when we see kids not making progress, we can connect it
Mhm.
to how much practice is happening at home
Mhm.
and give tools to those families. So we might have a family that says, I forgot my login. Okay, I can help you with that.
Mhm.
My son poured water on the hotspot you gave us, and we just haven't told you. We haven't told you because we don't know what's going to happen. My children pour water all over the house, by the way. If I give them something to drink, half of it ends up on the floor.
Same here.
And that's going to happen, and we're going to give that family a new hotspot
Mhm.
because their education is the priority, not the punishment that might go with something like that. They might say, we don't have a place to live right now. We're in between houses. Okay, we can help you with that too. So this will be a tool that we use to get us more connected to families. We'll be using this program, Footsteps of Brilliance and ST Math, to create more and more interaction with our families. I don't know, when I do these, Diego, I always think, has that really been an hour? But it has been an hour. In just a few minutes, we're going to redo this in Spanish. So we do a Spanish version as well. I just want to thank you both for being here. You guys are both awesome. Been really great to have you. We kickstart ST Math and Footsteps of Brilliance district-wide in February. We're excited about that. Love literacy and love math in February, and we're getting it started at every school in this district. District-wide. Footsteps of Brilliance, 0 to 3rd grade. ST Math, kinder to 8th grade. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.